my name is Major Mike Webb. I boarded the Trump train early during the 2016 race, and surprisingly right before the deadline for the Republican nomination convention, I was offered a lucrative federal job that would have precluded my continuing in the race for Congress in Virginia's 8th Congressional District by function of a thing we often call the Hatch Act. Some folks might have just taken the job and gone away. But I am a preacher's kid, and besides just sounding like an inappropriate offer, what was most concerning was the fact that I was clearly not qualified for the job offer based upon the qualifications that appeared in the federal job announcement. Well, that simple post on social media attracted well over 3,000 views in one day. But not one person said a word, not even a like. And then, well, things got really interesting. Or ever interesting, as they say in the local press. I'm a retired Army Ranger legal specialist with assignments on active duty as a strategic counterintelligence officer. And I possess well over 15 years of solid legal professional experience at some of the best law firms in the country. So I decided to commence a private investigation into the matter. And as I continued to uncover more distressing details regarding this improper job offer, well, let's just say that life became even more ever interesting. Everything from cyber attacks and internet stalkers to vandalism and theft and beyond. I even became internationally notorious, but this little story about an offer of a federal job somehow got lost in the press, even if it remained a topic of concern for certain anonymous trolls whose IP address and home address have now been confirmed for this protected individual of whom folks say, I don't know who he or she is. And we might have to wait until a writ of mandamus to compel the Commonwealth Attorney to slap cuffs on him for anyone to finally know the true identity of the man who first appeared on Facebook without a face. Still, what began through a targeted FOIA request to uncover the dark secrets behind what amounts to an attempted bribe to remove a political opponent from a congressional race has now presented an opportunity to address a broader issue for whistleblowers and the integrity of our civil service system, which in January 2017 has continued without a quorum at the Merit Systems Protections Board, preventing any appeals on any adverse actions from furloughs to job performance from finding their due process right to a day in court. And the passage of the All Circuits Review Act in July 2018 gave me an opportunity to couple this concern with an investigation into political corruption that directly implicates both Congressman Don Beyer and Senator Tim Kaine, which has their offices in quite a panic trying to deflect and respond, to say the least. That matter is still pending. But corruption in electoral politics, corruption of the civil service system, or corruption in the federal courts, any one or all of these are a serious concern that would cause any good American to litigate to address. But in the process of litigation, I uncovered something far worse. On May 11, 2018, the Merit Systems Protections Board posted a withdrawal policy on their website to encourage persons who had timely filed an appeal and were awaiting a quorum for their day in court to withdraw their appeal of right for which they had fought to get that far. In exchange and enticement for relinquishing an appeal of right, the Merit Systems Protections Board offered the promise of a final order that they could use to obtain further review in the federal courts, but that representation was not wholly forthcoming. While it is true that an appeal in the courts requires a final decision or order, it is also true that it requires that a decision or order be an appeal of an adverse determination. If you are granted a voluntary withdrawal, you obtain that for which you had asked, and that may be unconscionable and fraudulent, but not adverse for purposes of appellate judicial review. So we are challenging this policy as unconstitutionally creating a fraud and inducement, and we will be seeking an injunction against this policy to prevent any further harms especially for the clear majority of appellants in the federal government who present their appeals by simply using the online form with no legal representation, contributing to the fact that of approximately 6,000 appeals filed each year at the Merit Systems Protections Board, less than 250 will find an adverse agency decision reversed. The All Circuits Review Act on the face was a measure to make permanent an experimental remedy that permitted persons with whistleblower retaliation claims to file their appeals to any federal circuit court. But its genesis lay not only in just a concern to prioritize reports of retaliation against those who had exposed evidence of government waste, fraud, abuse, and violations of law, but also, according to the legislative history, a continuing concern about the coziness of the relationship between the Merit Systems Protections Board and the Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, the exclusive court for such appeals by federal workers, where less than 3% of appellants had prevailed against the government agencies. This measure would immediately bring the benefits of choice and competition for claims, especially in view of the lack of a quorum that has rendered the Merit Systems Protections Board inoperable for 2 years, but also encourages what lawyers call a split circuit, where the alternative interpretations of the law as applied to the issues may arise, challenging the former court of exclusive jurisdiction. In addition, I have urged the courts and the Merit Systems Protections Board to consider an interpretation that would render the All Circuits Review Act essentially a rescue lifeboat that will enable appellants currently trapped in a tribunal without a quorum to remove their cases to the federal court to be heard expeditiously. Of the approximately 6,000 appeals submitted each year, less than 900 appeals survive to earn the right to request an appeal to be heard before the board. And of those scant 900, and only about 150 that survive a battle of attrition are granted that right to be heard. But in less than 50 cases does a person who brought the challenge to the courts prevail. And this withdrawal policy specifically targets that small universe of less than 150 cases waiting to be heard, and asks them to agree to walk away in exchange for virtually nothing. That is a crime against the American people, and that is just deplorable. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God. Not unmindful of the future is the motto of Washington and Lee University. My name is Major Mike Webb, and I am running for U.S. Congress. In liberty, with honor and excellence, the South shall rise again. Honest.
This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb.